Good evening, everyone. You are in the spotlight with Brian Gardner for this Tuesday, November 24th, 2015. Here we are for our second of two shows this week, our second of two shows today. This In the Spotlight 4-on-1 broadcast coming at you here tonight. It's I feel like I just left the air. We were on around 2:45 this afternoon. We started a little late. And we got off around 4:30 or so about less than 4 hours ago I was here, and here I am again. So a double dose of In the Spotlight coming at you here today I should say. And tonight for our second of two shows, we're going to have our usual Tuesday night primetime show. Got a combo show coming at you tonight. We got some sports. We'll be doing some college basketball. I put NBA and MLB in the show description. We're not going to do any NBA or MLB. That was just a copy and paste job to let people know that we were covering everything that wasn't football. So there isn't anything NBA or MLB that any of you brought up or that that I think is worth covering. So we're not going to do that. So just college basketball on the sports side of things. We got a little WWE to come cover tonight, and then some entertainment in the form of the box office beat, and we'll do some TV talk as well. So, and because there's not a whole lot of entertainment news that has to be covered right this second, we probably won't do anything with that either. So, so sports, entertainment, combo, a little wrestling as well. That's what's coming at you here tonight for our last show of this week. Because of Thanksgiving, obviously, this will be it for us. No show tomorrow, no show Thursday, no show Friday. Next time you see us on the air will be a week from tonight, which will be the first show of December the 1st. That'll be our first of three shows next week. So back to normalcy next week. And we'll talk more about that later. Right now, though, I want to get us underway. And my co-host is already on the air and looking very enthusiastic tonight. How you doing, Mike? You're in the spotlight.
How many 10-hour days have you worked recently?
None.
So shut the fluff up. See what I did there? He's fluff instead of fuck.
Aren't you glad this is our only show of the week? Well, your only show of the week.
Aren't you lucky that this is your only show of the week?
You're in a fine mood.
Yep.
All right. Let's get the reminders out of the way so we can be quick.
Brian, I'd like to remind you that I wasn't 20 minutes late tonight.
Sorry. I kind of did a show less than 4 hours ago. I was rehabbing my voice.
OMG.
Oh, well, there's karma for you. All right. Yeah. Anyway, folks, just to remind you all, there are the ways in which you can interact and contribute to the show. Get your voice heard by emailing us at itspotlight411@gmail.com. You can also follow us and tweet us at itspotlight411. And please remember to use the hashtag, either hashtag itspotlight411 or hashtag ITS5, which represents our 5th anniversary on the air as a podcast. You can also find us on Facebook in the Spotlight 411. Make sure you like our page. I'm not even gonna. I ain't even gonna lie. Well, a little late because basically I was downing a couple bottles of water because my voice was so hoarse from this afternoon that is ridiculous. So yeah, that is what I was doing. And I'm still hoarse, so there you go. But I will muddle through. It's okay. It'll be worth it. We'll have a nice little respite here.
Did you say you were hoarse?
Yes.
Because you look a lot more like a horse's ass.
I left myself wide open for that. Good show. All right, so I'll tell you more about what's going to happen next week later at the end of the show. And really, we're not going to tell you much of anything about next week on the fact that, how the schedule is going to work formally. It will be a more normal schedule, though, for sure. All right, so let's get right down to it. And let's start. We're going to start with the sports stuff first because the entertainment stuff is going to be very short tonight. All right. So, as I said, and as I said in the open, the only sports stuff we're going to cover tonight is college basketball because there's really nothing else to really cover that I think needs to be covered right away here. And it was a very interesting week in college basketball. Obviously, now we're getting into some of the early season tournaments. Some of them started this weekend. But what was really interesting was last week we were on the air talking about how Virginia got upset. And then over the weekend, we had North Carolina go down to Northern Iowa. Maryland has already had a couple of close calls. Wake Forest has beaten Indiana. Then you have LSU, who a lot of people were high on, not myself and Mike, although I do like Simmons. I think he's going to be a great player. They lost today to NC State in overtime. You've already had a significant amount of big upsets. And look, this is early season. I don't think anybody's trying to say, oh my gosh, start worrying about teams, whatever. But it does. The one thing about college basketball, you can't use the whole, it's the NBA, the excuse using the NBA and the MLB where you're like, you know what, you got this long season to kind of build yourself back from. These losses now will end up mattering if you're on the bubble for the NCAA tournament, or it could be the difference between a higher seed and a lower seed. It does matter. They're going to look at this. Now, they do put more weight on how you finish. We all know that. But at the same time, it does have an impact. It does have an impact. So as you look around right now, and a lot of teams now have gotten into these big preseason tournaments because they want to up their resume, because they don't want to be on the outside looking in, because they recognize with the amount of parity in college basketball right now, you want to be able to differentiate your profile and your resume in some which way, meaning you want to try to get that strength of schedule up. You want to, hey, even if you look at Michigan State, every year their schedule is like number 1 or number 2 in the country. They don't play a single cupcake on their schedule.
That's a lie, they do.
Well, they do, but it's very, isolated, okay? Very isolated. So when you look at their record and you see they already got 7 losses, yeah, but chances are those 7 losses all came to good teams, and chances are they won at least 3 or 4 of those games outside of the 7 losses they've had. So they play a tough schedule. And you're seeing that more and more with these teams playing tough games early in the season, whether they're in a preseason tournament or like one of these things like the ACC Big Ten Challenge or something. They're in these big early season events or tournaments. Now, as I mentioned, North Carolina, a lot of people were shocked by that. I thought they were overrated. I think right about now is where they probably should have been. I never said they weren't a top 10 team. I just didn't think they were a top 5 team. And they're at number 9. I think that's a good spot for them. Duke, I thought, was a tad overrated. They already got knocked out by Kentucky. They almost lost to VCU on Friday night. But Duke, I think, is right with. Duke being a top 10 team is fine. I just didn't think they deserve to be where they're at. Despite Maryland's performance, and you could say that Maryland has been far from being a top 5 team. I'm a little more okay with Maryland being at 2 right now because I know that that's eventually what they could become. And this is probably one of the only times I'll ever be okay with Kentucky. Kentucky being number 1 because I think they deserve to be right now. I think they deserve to be right now. I think they got them right now, as far as talent and the way they've looked early on, as far as top 5 teams, they've looked the best. Far and away, they've looked the best. So I don't have an issue with that at this particular time. But you know what? It is early season. But I think the one thing that you look at, you want to see growth from these teams. Every game you watch with these teams, you want to see them mature. You want to see growth. You want to see how they respond in tough situations because that's going to build confidence for later on. You look to see if there's any talent. Obviously, you come each season, each team's reloaded with top freshmen. You want to see if there's anybody out there that maybe you missed. You look at upperclassmen that might be mixed in with the talent. You look to see if you're a coach. You look to see what your rotations are going to be, because that's what you're settling on right now. These games are important in the broad scheme of things. Besides just the resume, they're important in growing chemistry. They're important in figuring out your rotations. They're important in building your confidence, and working out the kinks, because you are only about 3 weeks into the season at this point. So, these are all important games. Now, we highlighted some of the big wins and big losses already. And again, saying we said a couple weeks when we had the preview show for college basketball, we mentioned sweeper teams and all that stuff. We're not going to get into that right now, because you're hard pressed to figure that out at this point. But obviously, the story is the fact that you've seen two big teams in the top 10 lose to teams that aren't ranked, and that's Carolina and Virginia. Duke's lost. So Duke, Carolina, and Virginia, all three teams that are expected to be the top 3 teams in the ACC, have all lost already. Now, the number one question from people as far as sports go this week was, what does that mean for the ACC? Does it mean the ACC is overrated? No, it doesn't, because it's like I said, you don't write off the early season like you do in some other like NBA and MLB. You don't do that. The games matter. However, you can't be freaking out about it either. These 3 are probably still going to be your top 3 in the ACC, more than likely, barring any unforeseen injuries or anything like that. They're going to still be at the top. How they play in conference play could be different than how they play in non-conference play. One thing you can take away from that, though, is once they get to the big tournament in March, seeing how they play against certain teams who might have certain defenses or certain styles of play could be very important in figuring out how they will respond against certain teams in the NCAA tournament. That's very important. And from a coaching standpoint, that's helpful. Like, Mike Krzyzewski might say, hey, against VCU, against that man-to-man, vaunted man-to-man defense, we struggled to get our shots off. We got to work on that, because we're going to run into that not only in conference play, but in non-conference play. If you're in North Carolina, you might say, boy, if we don't get transition baskets, we can't score. Got to figure out a way to cultivate points without transition basketball. Something that Carolina hasn't seemed to master for about 8 years now. If you're Virginia, you struggle to score, period, unless you shoot the 3 ball. Something that they've been struggling with the last couple of years, and it's come back to bite them each and every time. Do they finally figure out a way to create points? And that seems to be the consistency with a lot of these teams, not just in the AC. You've seen it with Virginia, North Carolina. They all have some kind of issue with the half-court offense. Duke, not so much, except for against certain teams have a little bit of a different man-to-man defense, a more aggressive assertive man-to-man defense. Seems to give them issues, yes. But the kind of man-to-man that VCU still runs, they still kind of run the Shaka Smart defense. You don't run into that often. But that's one thing I think you see now, because we went through a period a couple years ago in college basketball where it was, whether it was because of the one and dones or because of, the whole thing with people spamming the shot clock and also, for whatever reason, the quality of play was abysmal, and it's gotten better. But one thing that's still there as an issue for a lot of teams is issues in the half-court offense. And you used to think, and this includes myself as well, you used to think it was simply they didn't have a number one guy, an elite level player that can make a play when you need it the most. Late in the shot clock, or when the defense is there and it's so hard to get any open looks. You don't have that special kind of player that can break things down and get you that big play. I used to think that's all it was, and for a lot of teams, it might be as simple as that. But for some, it is not. For some, they have that kind of player. It just doesn't happen. And there's a lot of reasons and theories as to why that might not happen. And it really is a team by team kind of thing. It could be as simple as, there's chemistry issues, and that is a factor. It could be as simple as the kind of offense you're running in the half court is not really suited for the player personnel that you have. There's a lot of theories and a lot of reasons it could be. Each team might be a different reasoning as to why that is the case. But that is a very common problem for a lot of teams in college basketball right now, and it's very prevalent in the ACC. Virginia has this issue. Carolina has this issue. Syracuse has this issue. Notre Dame has this issue at times. I could go on and on. It's a very prevalent issue in the ACC. Not so much in the Big 12 or the Big East. Big 10, maybe to a lesser extent. The ACC is probably the biggest culprit of it. I'm not sure why that is. I think that's just coincidental that it happens to be a lot of the same conference that have that issue. But it's an issue. It is an issue. And if you watch enough games, you'll see it. It's on display. Pretty much every night I watch a college basketball game, I see it from some team somewhere. And I don't know what the answer is to that. I don't know. You can practice it, but you know what? You can practice and try to work out the kinks, and then you get out in a real game, and a lot of these things still don't happen. It just doesn't develop. And I don't know why it doesn't, but because you know that the coaches have to see it, and you know that they try to make the adjustments because it's obvious. But for some reason, one way or the other, it doesn't happen. So I don't know. It's one of those things that, maybe it just works itself out, or after a while, it'll just fix itself. I don't know. I don't know. Mike, do you have anything that you want to toss out there as far as anything you've seen in college basketball so far, any wins, losses, etc.? Did you hear me throw to you? Okay. It looks like my co-host is either falling asleep or he is not paying attention. So, yeah. All right. So until he comes back, I will. I'm
back.
Oh, okay.
Oh God, I had to spare the people from you talking more.
Well, it's funny because I threw to you like 2.5 minutes ago.
Yes, so you did.
I want to know if you had anything to add to what I had said or anything about so far what you've seen in college basketball, wins, losses, style of play, quality of play, anything like that you could throw out there.
First of all, I had to get more hot chocolate.
Oh, that's important.
Well, yeah, because my voice is getting kind of raw. But unlike you talking about football for 2, 3, 4 hours, I was busy at work. And I feel myself getting a sore throat. So I'm having delicious Nestle's hot chocolate. Nestle's, the hot chocolate of champions. And my Disney brand mug, as you can see here, is Mickey Mouse, but it's an Earth Day sponsored mug. So it is a Mickey Mouse Earth Day. Available at all fine Disney stores or disneystores.com near you. Congratulations. I just gave you some free promotion, Brian. You're welcome.
Oh,
You are on the radar.
cool.
You have the worst reactions of anybody that I know when it comes to trying to give you free stuff, Brian.
Oh, okay. I'll try to do more.
I digress. Speaking of teams that are free, as in, good Lord, it is free to score on these teams. Virginia. Oh, Virginia. The thing with Virginia is, and we've elaborated this in the past. You've elaborated it about an hour ago, or whenever you stopped talking. Virginia is one-dimensional. They've been one-dimensional. And if they ever want to win a championship or have aspirations of going deep into the NCAA tournament, they need to stop being one-dimensional. Their defense isn't bad. Excuse me. Their defense isn't bad. However, they are one-dimensional when it comes to scoring. They have a talented center. His name escapes me. But what they do is they try to open up the paint by scoring from the outside. And if the three ball's not there, then suddenly they don't have to worry about and suddenly the other team doesn't have to worry about guarding the three. Virginia's missing, I don't know, let's say they take 23s and they miss 15. That's a very Virginia type of thing to do. So what many teams do is, and this is what I agree with, you use the paint. You have your guards cut to the basket. You use your bigs. You use your power forward. Open up. Hammer in the easy twos. Take the mid-range, and as they try to collapse, then you've opened up your three ball. That's usually how I like it. That's how I feel like a competent defense is run, or confident offensive set is run. However, Virginia is the opposite, and it works to an extent, but you have to make your shots. It's like a dead man's hand. Sure, it looks good, but most of the time, it's not going to be there. So, Virginia is kind of free right now, if you catch my drift. And free, of course, meaning easy. But that's a team that will be competitive when it comes down to it. Do you know what team is really good and doesn't have problems like that? Villanova. 4-0, Big East, 27, just beat Akron. Where some teams are losing to mid-majors, Villanova is winning. But the problem is with Villanova, and they routed Nebraska. That's a good thing. The thing with Villanova is they're coming into the weakest part of their schedule, which is the Big Six. I know it's a tradition thing, and it's a really cool kind of thing, but they have nothing to gain and everything to lose. They are easily the best team in the Big Six. If they lose one of those games, suddenly their ranking takes a hit. Suddenly the RPI takes a hit. Suddenly everything takes a hit.
Right.
But they have to do it because they're the Philly Big Six. They have to. Now, the thing with Carolina is, yeah, they're a bit weak. Yeah, they're a bit one-dimensional. But yeah, they've been down. They're down their best player, Marcus Page. He might be back for Maryland. He might not be. That team is vastly different without him.
Mm-hmm.
They are a one-dimensional team regardless, but he makes them better. He makes them much better. So if they have Marcus Page, they will improve. But I think North Carolina is going to be better in the long run. Michigan State beats Kansas. Did you talk about Kansas?
Not too much because I mean I think we talked about this off the air that Kansas losing in November is not the same as Kansas losing in March.
Yes, I know. So I was going to touch on that for about 20 seconds. So in the words of the great rapper P Diddy, shut the fuck up.
Fair enough.
Actually, it could be literally any rapper. Any rapper. Pick one. Go ahead, pick one. Pick one, white boy.
Snoop Dogg.
Who? I am going to pick the hardest hardcore rapper ever. I'm going to pick Psy. He said it too. But yes, Kansas. Look, beating Kansas in November is a feat. It is. They're pretty good. However, yes, as Brian highlighted, and I was about to highlight, beating Kansas in November is not the same as beating Kansas in March. Kansas is one of those teams that gets progressively better over the year because somewhere, let's say December or so, maybe even January, depending on the team, they finally get what Coach Self is talking about and start putting it to use. They finally understand what he's talking about, and at that point when you see it click, that's when they start dominating the Big 12, and they don't look back. And they usually lose in the tournament, but sometimes they don't. So it's Kansas. Iowa State's going to be pretty good. Look, I really don't have too much to comment on other than that. Just surprised with some things. And local news, Syracuse hasn't lost yet.
Yet.
It could happen soon. But at least they're in Atlantis, North Carolina. Unlike North Carolina, isn't Atlantis? That was their preseason tournament?
I thought it was Atlantis, but it wasn't. The site I was looking at had the wrong information.
Oh.
They weren't in Atlantis.
Then please strike that comment from the record. I thought North Carolina was in the battle for Atlantis.
They're in the CBE Hall of Fame Classic.
They're in the CBE Hall of Fame Classic.
Yep, it's in Kansas City, Missouri.
The CBE has a early season tournament now.
Mm-hmm.
That's terrible. Oh well, I know it's not. Maybe it's better than the CBI. So, let's see. We have. Oh, excuse me. Oh. Syracuse and Charlotte. That's the game. Michigan, North Carolina, Michigan, Connecticut, Texas A&M. Texas A&M, of all things. Usually it's the other way around.
Yep.
And Gonzaga, Washington. And it's looking like they're hoping for a Connecticut Gonzaga final. We're just hoping for a Syracuse, Connecticut game.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for.
Honestly, that's it. That's what we're looking for here. So, that's my college basketball thing. Maybe we'll get a Syracuse UConn game. Maybe we won't. And if it happens, then we're going to get the highlights. We're going to get the highlights from the 6 OT game.
Yeah.
And still to this day, that is still probably the best basketball game in recent history. Period.
Yeah.
6 overtimes, 2 teams playing at elite level. Syracuse and UConn made some history right there.
Yeah, back when the old Big East. Yeah, that was good times.
Yes, we have to call it the old Big East. Was 3 years ago. Once again, this segment was sponsored by Nestle Hot Chocolate. Nestle. Fuck yeah.
All right. So obviously, there's a lot of early season tournaments. I mentioned a couple of upsets already. Indiana, while Indiana had lost yesterday to Wake Forest, Indiana went on to win against St. John State 83-73 and down in Maui. NC State beat LSU, as I said. Maryland is playing in the Cancun Challenge. They play Illinois State tonight. They should win that one easily. Kentucky's in the Basketball Hall of Fame Classic against Boston University. Carolina and North Carolina is playing unbeaten Kansas State in the CBE Hall of Fame Classic, which is being held in Kansas City, Missouri. So Kansas State basically on their home floor in that game. Well, okay, not their home floor, but it's a home court advantage. It's close enough, I should say. So Kansas UCLA played tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern on ESPN in the Maui Invitational. So that should be a fun game. Marquee game for sure tonight. So that's a little taste of what's coming up tonight. Some tournaments get underway tomorrow. Washington Gonzaga and the Battle for Atlantis at noon. And two, Syracuse Charlotte is the second game there. Texas A&M also tomorrow. Texas is already 1-1. Of course, they're playing on a new coach, Shaka Smart. Indiana UNLV from Maui tomorrow. UNLV had a tough game against Chaminade, who had the lead at the half today. Duke's in action tomorrow against Yale in a non-conference game. Duke's already won their preseason NIT game tournament this past weekend, so Duke's already won their tournament. Connecticut, Michigan tomorrow on the Battle for Atlantis at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. That is the headlining game. And then, like as we noted, Mike and me noted, you might be looking at Syracuse, Connecticut on Thanksgiving night, or you could be looking at Syracuse, Michigan, which is a Final Four rematch from a few years back. Stanford, Villanova from the NIT season tip-off. I should say Duke didn't win the preseason NIT. They won the 2K Classic. NIT season tip-off will feature Villanova, and that tournament gets underway on Thursday with Villanova against Stanford from the Barclays Center. That game will be a 4:30 p.m. Eastern game on Thanksgiving. Michigan State, Boston College, Notre Dame, Monmouth. California, San Diego State, which would be a good game. That's from the Las Vegas Invitational. Xavier, Alabama. So some good games coming at you on Thanksgiving, some big tournaments. And then, how all these games play out in the next couple of days is what that'll tell you how Friday will shake out, and of course how Saturday will shake out with some of these tournaments. You can't really predict how it's all going to go and highlight any games because you don't know how it's all going to play out. So these tournaments will play out all the way through Saturday, and then Sunday you get back to some normal non-conference actions. On Sunday, you got a really good game between Wisconsin and Oklahoma. Don't let the fact that Wisconsin's 3-2 fool you. They're still going to be a good team. And Oklahoma's a very good team, and you'll get a chance to see them on Sunday, 2:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN too. And then on Monday, not much going on there. And then next Tuesday is a really big night of college basketball. A really big night. Villanova starts their whole little journey through their Philadelphia region there with a game against St. Joseph's, who's actually playing very well at 4-1. Virginia meets Ohio State on ESPN. Iowa State gets really under the North Dakota State team that's not a pushover. We've heard of them before. We all know that. And they are a very tough team to play. Purdue and Pittsburgh. Purdue's now in the top 25. Miami and Nebraska. Nebraska's played very well out of the gate. Maryland, North Carolina in the Big Ten ACC Challenge, which will be a really, really good game. A reunion of former ACC teams. For each one, really, for many people, it's their first true test. North Carolina has lost already. That's a 9:30 p.m. Eastern game at ESPN Tuesday night. And then the ACC Big Ten Challenge continues into Wednesday of next week with some big games. Between Louisville and Michigan State, which is an elite level coaching matchup for sure. Notre Dame, Illinois, Indiana, Duke. So some big games there. Syracuse, Wisconsin. Butler plays Cincinnati, which will be a great game. Butler's unranked now. They lost, but they're still a very good basketball team. Florida Gulf Coast and Texas A&M. That could be interesting. You all remember Florida Gulf Coast a few years ago. They do have some good players on that team. So some good games coming at you over the next week with the preseason tournaments. Early season tournaments, I should say. And then, of course, some good non-conference matchups following up on that. So we'll see how everything shakes out over the next week in college basketball. I think there'll be some great games. So you got lots of sports stuff coming at you. You got NFL, college football, college basketball, some good stuff coming up. Some very, very good stuff. Now, from sports, we're going to jump to wrestling. And last week we previewed Survivor Series, and so much of that show we did was talking about how the WWE World Heavyweight Championship tournament would shake out. And little did we all know, even though we all knew the possibility would exist, little did we all know that, Roman Reigns would actually win the title, but not walk out with the title. Well, that's exactly what happened. Sheamus cashed in his Money in the Bank contract, beat Roman Reigns after a 5-minute and 15-second title reign, and he is the new champion, and the Authority has seemingly been reloaded. As per Raw last night, we now have, it looks like, Sheamus, Rusev, and Wade Barrett as members of the Authority. So the Authority getting a little bit of a reboot. There's a lot you can talk about here. Obviously, people felt the pay-per-view on Sunday was a lackluster pay-per-view. A lot of the finishes seemed anticlimactic. There's a lot of rumors about why all that was. And Raw last night felt like mostly filler. And look, this is the time of year when you're going to get filler anyway. They don't care about TLC. It's just the way it is. We all thought coming out of Survivor Series that we'd have answers as to where WrestleMania is going. I don't think we have any answers right now, because it does seem like things are still kind of in flux. It's an interesting thing. So much is obviously, a lot of people have been down on WWE for a very, very, very long time. A very long time. But it seems like coming out of Survivor Series, a lot of people are at their wits' end here. You even got some legends coming out now. Mick Foley is coming out now saying that he's about ready to turn it off. You're hearing all these people that are either former members of Creative or used to work for WWE or whatever, bashing the product, and they have no idea what they're doing. Obviously, ratings have been down, and you could, the argument you can make for that is, well, what, the Nielsen rating system has been flawed for a while anyway, and that's true. You could say that, but there's a lot of things going on right now. A lot of people are down on the product. It looks like, and then of course all the injuries to the talent in WWE, already thin talent pool. There's a lot of things out there right now. Let me just respond to this quickly, and I'll throw it to Mike. I wouldn't say that this is the worst that WWE has ever been. And this is going to since I started watching this about 10 years ago, okay? I don't think it's the worst it's ever been. I still maintain that maybe like the first half of 2011 might have been worse. Before CM Punk's infamous pipe bomb, and right after the Nexus angle was ended, and then we got the core and everything, I still think a lot of that was bad. If you didn't have the Rock program and the Miz net, it probably would have been I think that period was quite bad. There's things to like you got New Day. There's a lot, you got there's a lot of new talent there that wasn't there before. Alberto Del Rio, but there's a lot of things there that are positives. I will admit this though, and I think I've seen a lot of people posting about this, and I really agree. And a couple of you asked about this, so I'll bring this up. The biggest issue is that there doesn't feel like a lot of storylines. It feels like just I mean, they've gone back to the Authority now, but there's nothing personal involved there. It's just, well, we screwed you, we don't like you, and now it's being done with Roman Reigns. And that's it. There's nothing like personal. They're trying to do something personal with Reigns, but they're not getting it across very well. And then outside of that, what do you got for storylines? Everything's just feuds over titles, and then occasionally a thrown together match. The Divas Championship, you kind of afford a personal thing, but you ruined it with a lot of ugliness. So there's not a whole lot of storylines. You don't have any mid-card feuds. Even the feuds for any of the titles don't seem very personal. If it wasn't for the Authority behind Sheamus, what's the personal notion of Reigns versus Sheamus? So I think that's a really big flaw right now in this, and I think that's why it's been really bad for this company. Say what you want about Rollins Kane a couple months ago, but there was something personal there. It was pent up frustration on Kane's part. It was part of the Authority, and Rollins, basically was unappreciative. It just got to the point of him exploding. But there's just not enough storytelling, and there's no excitement. It just feels so, it seems so rehashed and so formulaic and so like it's going through the motions. And people might feel like, well, you know what, this is late in the year, this is WWE, they're gearing up for Mania. Yeah, they are, but I already fear what they're going to do for WrestleMania right now, not only because of the thin talent pool, but because I don't see any potential personal angles on the table that you could go to. You're going up the Rollins stuff to be personal between him and Triple H, or even if you did Rollins versus Ambrose and Reigns, because there's a personal tilt there. Part of the reason what makes a lot of these Mania matches is there's something personal. There's storytelling. There's no angles being built right now for WrestleMania in WWE right now. What you're going to get is a bunch of part-timers and a lot of people tossed back into the mix in January, and then you're going to form the matches. And then after WrestleMania, it's going to be right back to square one again. And what good is that going to be for the product? To me, that's the biggest issue. I like last night in a lot of ways because we saw talent that we haven't seen get used. Heath Slater, Wade Barrett's back, and Rusev are back in an important position. It looks like there could be something with the Dudley Boys and the Wyatts. Hopefully, maybe. Jack Swagger is back in something important. And, that could be something personal if they keep developing, and I hope they do, because at least that would be something personal with Swagger and Del Rio and the whole Zeb thing. I should say that's at least one thing that could go somewhere. Nonetheless, I like a lot of aspects of last night because there was different people being used, but the problem is you haven't used them in so long that nobody cared. And you got guys trading wins and losses, and it's nobody. There's just a lack of credibility too. So I think they are in big trouble. They are in big trouble unless there's significant change ensuing. They are in big trouble. I will agree, but I don't think it's the worst it's ever been. I think what the issue is people are indifferent. There's not a lot to care about. They're bored. But there have been times where I think it's been worse with things and it's almost offended you. So, Mike, what are your thoughts on the current state of WWE coming out of Survivor Series?
Was it thrown back to me?
Yes, it was.
Oh, yes! Sorry, I can't really do a Paul Bearer thing right now, but I tried. Once
Did you hear what I asked you?
Once again, this talking segment is brought to you by Nestle Hot Chocolate. Nestle, it does taste good, yes. Sometimes you have to put more than one scoop in. Just saying. But whoever complained about more chocolate? No, people who are allergic will complain about more chocolate. There you go. There was your service announcement, public service announcement. I did, in fact, miss your question. So
Okay.
question?
The question was, what are your thoughts on WWE coming out of Survivor Series? Do you share the sentiment of all these, a lot of the fans, some of the legends, some former members of creative, and that it's the one all these people want to turn their TVs off, that they think it's horrible, none of the talent has credibility, blah, 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 blah. I could go on and on.
Okay. It's a mixed bag. I am one of those people who, as many longtime listeners of the show, all 10 of you know, I'm a fan of Sheamus. I like Sheamus. I think he's fantastic. I think he's been doing some good work. The problem is, yes, he cashed in. That wasn't the problem. He cashed in on Roman Reigns. Now, we've talked about the Roman problem before. I like Roman Reigns. I think Roman Reigns could be a top draw in about 5 years. I think Roman Reigns could be the face of the company. I'm not one of those people who's down on him. However, what they did earlier this year, the Roman experiment, you forced him down our throats. He got the adverse Cena reaction, and suddenly, every time Roman is near the title, we are like Pavlov's dogs. Every time we hear a bell, we start drooling. So every time Roman's near a title, we start booing. Now, and there are some backstage stories from this that we're not going to get into, but the only people who thought it was a good idea that Roman Reigns should get the title were Vince McMahon and Kevin Dunn.
Mm.
And coming out of Survivor Series, the only person who was booed more than Roman Reigns was Sheamus. You were supposed to boo Sheamus. Sheamus is the bad guy who is aligning with other bad guys. Yes, you could chant "You look stupid" all you want, but the thing is, we're supposed to root against him. I mean, I like Sheamus. I like his partnership with Barrett and Rusev. I like the partnership with the Authority. It makes sense. Sheamus, I mean, he's not like Seth Rollins. He's the man. He's going to be the future. The future is now. No, Sheamus is the present. Sheamus is the present. He is the guy with all of the stroke. And he's got a history with Triple H. They respect each other. They sometimes work out, according to Sheamus and Triple H. And look, it makes sense. We're supposed to boo Sheamus. He does good heel work. He's a better face, but he's a better face with story. He's a heel with story, finally. It took a while, but he's there. So we're supposed to boo him. And the moment they decided on Roman Reigns, the only option was Sheamus. That's it. There is the long and the short. The moment they decided on Roman Reigns winning that tournament, about this off the air. Not Roman Reigns winning the tournament, but the only option in the end was Sheamus. But the thing with I mentioned Pavlov's dogs earlier. That WrestleMania experience soured the crowd on Roman Reigns to where he doesn't even get a Cena reaction. Some people chant, "Let's go Roman." Some people chant, "Roman sucks." Then everybody else sits on their hands. That's not good. That's not good at all. Because when Cena comes out, at least half the crowd chants, "Let's go, Cena," and the other half chants, "Cena sucks." Some people for Roman sit on their hands and don't care. They don't react. He's just there. So they created a situation, and Roman has had a few feuds to kind of like build that back up. He feuded with Bray Wyatt. He feuded a little bit with Seth Rollins early on. The feud with Bray Wyatt. Oh, he feuded with the Big Show. Excuse me. That feud with Bray Wyatt did him a lot of good. But but for whatever reason they decided, oh, he's getting a favorable reaction from the crowd now because they were cheering him. He's getting a favorable reaction from the crowd after the feud with Wyatt. Let's put him right with Seth Rollins. The moment they put him in the title picture, and here's the thing, they put him in the title picture over Kevin Owens, who is the darling of the moment, who is the indie guy with all the credibility, who's the badass ass kicker. They put him over Kevin Owens to get to Seth Rollins, who's the other indie guy who's doing the work of his career. Of course they're going to boo the crap out of him. You know? Of course they're going to boo him. And then you have the tournament. He beats Alberto Del Rio. That happens. Del Rio probably wasn't super happy, but Del Rio's a team player. Dean Ambrose, and and there's the other thing. Dean Ambrose is one of the few faces on the roster who gets universally cheered. 95% of the audience cheers for Dean Ambrose. 95% of that audience on Survivor Series was rooting for Dean Ambrose. If they were smart, they would have run Dean Ambrose winning right there in the finals. Now, personally, I would have run Owens. I would have run, and I know I'm biased, but hear me out. I would have run Owens over Roman, Owens over Dean. He goes over the top two faces in the company of one night. He holds that title, and he's the big authority heel champion. And suddenly, he's the new, he's like a combination of Seth Rollins and Brock Lesnar. He becomes the draw. You want to see what he's doing. So that's what I would have done. But no, you decide that, okay, that Roman Reigns is going to win. And once that happened, the crowd barely reacted. In fact, they only really reacted when Triple H showed up. And they reacted when Sheamus showed up. Sheamus cashed in. Now, Raw last night got a 2.6 something, which is not good for Raw. Why is that? Because, A, you're right. There's no overarching story going forward. B, nobody believes Roman Reigns right now. Nobody even wants him to be in the Daniel Bryan role. Because if you've noticed something, they're running the Daniel Bryan story with Roman Reigns. I don't know if you noticed that. They're running the Daniel Bryan story with Roman Reigns in hopes that lightning strikes twice for their guy. Unfortunately, Daniel Bryan was a grassroots thing. Do you know why the Daniel Bryan thing worked? Because the crowd had handpicked Daniel Bryan as their guy.
Right.
The groundswell for Daniel Bryan didn't stop. So when he was in the Authority storyline and getting screwed over, it made the Authority even bigger heels and Daniel Bryan even bigger face. There's no groundswell for Roman Reigns. If it were Cesaro getting screwed, there would have been a groundswell. If it were Kevin Owens getting screwed, there would have been a groundswell. If it were Dean Ambrose, there would have been a groundswell. Your problem is it's Roman Reigns. It's your guy. And you, and unwittingly, but you as a company have trained the crowd to boo the guy whenever he's in a title position.
Right.
So I hope Vince McMahon is happy because they have to settle on their guy, Roman Reigns, his first reign being 5 minutes and 15 seconds, because there is no way you can even put that guy near the title now. After TLC, he needs to be away from the title for a good year. And he needs to be feuding with guys for a good year. You need to build this guy up. You got to do something, because if you put him near the title, you have ruined the guy, and you screwed yourself after Survivor Series. You could have had either Owens or Ambrose. Hell, even Del Rio would have been a better choice. You went with the worst choice, and no kidding, the ratings were low because nobody. I like Sheamus. Not a lot of people want to see Roman versus Sheamus.
Yeah.
Not it's just not. Look, I think at this point more people would rather see a Randy Orton versus Sheamus match.
Yeah.
Let's be clear. And it's not so much Sheamus, because I think at this point people know Sheamus does good work. But I think it's because they don't want to see Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
That's just the long and the short. They don't want to see Roman Reigns. Oh, see, I totally forgot my camera was off for that whole time.
That's okay.
So I noticed and I put it back on. So in the end, it has nothing. I believe it has nothing to do with Sheamus. It has everything to do with Roman Reigns. Do the Smarks not like Sheamus? No. But let's be honest here. When have the Smarks liked Sheamus?
Yeah. True.
When have they liked Sheamus? They never liked him. He went over their guy at WrestleMania in 15 seconds. That wasn't his fault.
Yeah.
He went over the guy in 15 seconds. He was Triple H's buddy. That's why he got the huge push at the beginning. Sheamus can't win regardless of what he does. He is one of the best wrestlers and power wrestlers out there. It's just they're not going to give him the credit. So yeah. Sheamus as champion would be fine. It would have worked better if he screwed, Dean Ambrose.
Right.
But I think Sheamus holding the title makes WrestleMania plans a little clearer. I'll give you a hint. It can't be Roman Reigns. It can't be Roman Reigns. So, with that long ass tangent out of the way, WWE outside of the Roman Reigns, we're hoping that he's the new Daniel Bryan. After that, which it won't work. It's not gonna be even fun to see him try. You don't have stories. You ruin the Divas story. You're right back to square one. Dean Ambrose now has 2 wins on Kevin Owens, so they have to have a match now, which Owens will probably win. Your tag match is the Usos and the Lucha Dragons? I don't know. And other than that, Del Rio Swagger.
Yeah.
It feels like you have more programs than you do, but you don't, and nobody is really digging a lot of them. And guys that you need to be putting in programs like Ryback are now in developmental hell.
Yeah.
Creative hell, I should say. Because there's no way they've got nothing. Which is a great way to kill momentum.
Right.
Go ahead.
I think the thing is, you're going to see what TLC is going to do is it's going to burn off a lot, maybe aside from the tag division, because I'm assuming that some of the stuff like Usos versus New Day, that's going to keep extending out for a little bit, which is fine. Everything else is going to be blown off at TLC. This is the match. TLC is going to be where we end Reigns' pursuit of the title for now. Del Rio Swagger is going to be a one-off. Owens Ambrose is going to be a one-off. You'll probably do maybe one more Ziggler Breeze match, and that'll be done. What am I forgetting? Oh, and Charlotte Page. This will probably be it.
Yeah, they're gonna move on to Sasha real quick.
And that's generally that's going to be it. And then when you come back to the things in January, you got the Rumble. They're not going to have a lot of matches on the card at the Rumble, so you're going to be moving on to WrestleMania plans. And look, I think we all know that at this point in the year, they always start. A lot of it is filler, like it always is, because they never care about TLC. They never do. A couple years ago, they did the Cena Orton match there, and the only reason why they did that was because Vince wanted to unify the titles, and it was all part of a bigger plan, and it is what it is. So otherwise, he wouldn't have done that. So other than that, they don't care about TLC. They don't. It shows, because this is what I think this is the second time in like 4 years that they've kept Cena off the program.
Yep.
If they don't care enough to bring John Cena back early for TLC, which they could have done probably, they're not. They don't. Then that tells you right there they don't care. It's going to be a horribly bought pay-per-view because nobody's going to buy Reigns versus Sheamus. Who cares? And I don't mean to be rude to Reigns or Sheamus. It really is neither one of their faults. It's the booking's fault. It's the booking's fault. It's a feud that nobody cares about. Unless you push the authority angle, which is going to be now Authority versus Roman Reigns. And I really, really hope that they don't decide to do the Ambrose turn at TLC just because they want Reigns to have even more sympathy by having his best friend turn on him.
And the people are going to cheer Dean Ambrose anyway.
The time to do the Ambrose turn, if you were going to do it, was at Survivor Series and having Ambrose win the title.
Nobody is going to cheer Roman Reigns in the
right.
My best friend beat me up angle.
Right.
Unless it was for the title.
Right. And realistically, it's going to make Ambrose look stupid that he didn't do it at Survivor Series, but he did it at TLC.
Yep.
So it makes no sense to do it now. Reigns got a good reaction last night. I heard it on the show. I read a lot of reports. A lot of people said he got one of the best reactions he's had in a long, long time. That's a good thing. That is a good thing, but that's one crowd. Until he starts getting that reaction in every building that you add into, then you can't be. And look, forget. And I'm not saying smart heavy cities either. Okay, look, I know anybody knows that no matter when you go to Chicago, he's gonna get booed. Okay, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the casual cities. If every city that you go to outside of the smart cities, he gets a reaction like he got last night, then all power to you. But he's not gonna get that reaction everywhere he goes. He's not. When he does, go for it. But he hasn't yet. And a lot of people are like Mick. Like a lot of people are now. I guess while you were talking, like I was looking this up, that Mick Foley, I guess, has also quit watching NXT because. Well, he claimed it was because he doesn't like the fact that as soon as they get up to the main roster, there's no payoff. None of these people really get to do anything. A lot of their talent's wasted, so he doesn't feel like investing emotionally in the talent at NXT. And then when they get to the main roster, they get lost in the shuffle.
Mm-hmm.
So he's and Mick Foley's far from the only legend that's been outspoken about not only giving up on things like NXT, but about a lot of things. They're giving up on WWE entirely. A lot of legends, we've heard it over and over again, are very down on the product, and they've been for a long time. They don't want to say it. There's a lot of former creative people that are saying this stuff. Look, I don't think anybody's going around here saying that the product's good right now. But I think some of this is posturing. I think some of this is just overblown. So much of what they're doing is so manipulative. And a lot of what they're doing is geared towards getting one guy over. And if they didn't worry so much about that, because I'll tell you something, back during the early part of the summer, from like I say about maybe late May through early August, it was actually getting pretty good. You know, Kevin Owens came up. We had the Kevin Owens Cena feud, which was great for a while. You know, they had Ambrose in the title scene. It was getting good. There were things going on during that time, you know, that were really, really good. And then as soon as they went back, you know, the Reigns Wyatt feud, there was a lot of things good that were going on. As soon as they went back towards being everything gearing back towards putting Reigns over as something that he can't be right now, it all went to crap. Again, just like it did last year at the same time when they decided to do it that time too. They're not content anymore. It reminds me, and I hate to make this comparison. A lot of people are going to be like upset about it, but it reminds me a lot of what happened to American Idol. At the beginning, when the show started, they let the fans rally behind whoever they supported and vote for them. As the longer the show stayed on, it became more manipulative. Became like, oh, who we think we could package into a star versus who the fans decide. That's what WWE is doing right now. They don't trust the fans to decide who they want to be the top guy or the top guys. They want to decide it because they think they know better. And I'm not going to lie to you. There are instances, just like in any form of entertainment, there are some times where sometimes the writers, etc., do know better. But there are times when they don't. And when you're trying to build a company around a top star, the top star needs to be something that people will rally around. If they don't rally around the person, then you got nothing. When John Cena was made the top star, at that point, people were behind him. They turned people off to Cena by making him Superman for too long of a period. If they stuck with Cena the way he was when he first started, completely different story. Completely different story. They didn't do that. Now they got people hating Reigns before they even crown him. And their whole thing is, well, we had to have Sheamus cash in because we can't have him get booed. Well, good luck with that. He's never not going to be booed. I don't care what you do with this guy, okay? I don't care if there's going to be a time when he's going to get a really good action, okay? But you're still going to have people booing because they know they're always going to feel and remember what you just did, what you've done. And they're going to, this is a different era now. People are more in the know about things. They know you want him to be John Cena. They know you want him to be John Cena. And that's the problem. You're not letting him be Roman Reigns. You're force-feeding him on everybody the way you want him to be instead of making him who he needs to be and letting his ascent happen naturally. Let him find his way. Don't just throw him to the wolves because that's what you've done twice already. It's so much of the things wrong with the company are about one thing, and everything else falls out of place. And I know for some people it doesn't seem like it boils down to that quite simply, but to me it does. A lot of what's wrong with the company, especially with the main event scene, would be solved if they stopped trying to force feed things. It is what it is, and they're going to keep doing it until who knows when. Until they maybe you know, maybe what it's going to do is it's going to take people saying, you know, whether it's network subscribers or leaving or, you know, it's certainly not going to be the ratings because the ratings have been taking for months now and they don't seem to care. And they can hide behind the whole, well, you know, the rating system's archaic and everything, and it is. But you can only hide behind that so far. The fact of the matter is there is a problem you need to address, And until they address it, I don't know how much things are going to get better. For WrestleMania season, they'll get better because it'll be all flash and, you know, maybe it won't be as much substance as you would like, but it'll cover up some of the issues for a while. But as soon as WrestleMania ends, you'll be right back to it again. What are you going to do? You'd like to think they'd learn the lesson eventually, but all right. We'll move on now. Let's move on to entertainment and the box office beat. And last weekend, you know, we made so much this fall. Obviously, September, you know, the first half of September always can be rough. And then things, you know, got good for a while. And then in October brought some of the doldrums. You know, some movies didn't do as well as hoped. And, you know, sometimes that can happen, Halloween. And then, you know, we get to the holiday season. Spectre comes out, does okay, but some people still thought its opening was a little low. Peanuts movies, some people still thought its opening was a little low. So, you know, people are like, you know what? They feel like the box office is kind of in a rut. I mean, yeah, there are some things doing good in general, and so far the holiday movies have done well, but they're not doing as well as people hoped. And then you get to this weekend, past weekend, which featured the end of a franchise that has, over the last 5 years, built to this point, to what people thought would be this very big crescendo. And then on the other side of things was a R-rated Christmas comedy that we all questioned the release of for this particular weekend against the competition. Well, this weekend turned out not so good for both of these films. Now, for one of these films, you're going to say, well, wait a minute. Come on. This movie made $101 million in its opening weekend. How is that not good? And you know what? You're right. How is that not good? It is good. It's November. It's November. Kids still aren't out of school yet. How is this a bad, you know, how is this bad? How is this, you know, you wonder how is this considered bad? You put its worldwide total in, you're like, boy, you know what? It's not that far behind Mockingjay Part 1, and you know what? It's not bad. It's not. It's not. 102 million is nothing to sneeze at. Problem is, when you're the last movie in a franchise that has done amazing business and has set a bar so high for itself, and it's not like people don't know what's coming. The diehard fans know what's coming. So you can't blame it on spoilers or anything else. Something went wrong with this movie. And that's the part that's bad about this, is that it's a missed opportunity to do something special and make what you anticipated you would make. There's no reason. Just like if Harry Potter, the Deathly Hallows Part 2 underperformed, which it didn't. There's no reason. There's no reason for this movie to have underperformed. Look, you can get reactive all the critics. Some critics didn't like it. No, that doesn't matter. Because a lot of critics didn't like the previous couple movies. A lot of fans didn't like the previous couple movies. Why did this movie underperform in its opening weekend? What is going on at the box office that we're having big movies underperform so far this entire movie season? The answer is, I don't know. I truthfully do not know. I saw the Hunger Games movie this past week. I saw it opening night. I had issues with it. But at the same time, I didn't think the issues the movie had are issues that were going to cost the movie that much in terms of what it was expected to make. People knew what they were going to get in this movie. What the question is? What I mean, look, I think that the biggest theory that I subscribe to is the diehard fans came out and saw it. Nobody else did. there wasn't enough casuals to put it over to what it was supposed to do in its first weekend. And look, if it comes out this weekend, Thanksgiving week and Thanksgiving weekend, and it makes up the difference for what it didn't make last weekend, and you know what? Maybe it's as simple as people just didn't want to go last weekend. They wanted to wait till Thanksgiving weekend. Then you know what? Then you know what happened. I don't think that's going to happen though. There's too many other other movies coming out. I saw some people thinking, oh, maybe it's because of Star Wars coming out in less than a month. No, it has nothing to do with it. That's a month, almost a month away still. It has nothing to do with it. To me, the theory I subscribe to is it just didn't get over it with the casual moviegoer enough. It got the diehard fans to come out. We're going to see it no matter what. And you know what? Now, what's going to happen to this movie in the long term is going to depend on whether people liked it enough, whether it's a casual fan or a dire fan. A lot of dire fans aren't going to like it. So that's going to hurt the repeated viewing. So it's going to probably underperform in the long term, too. Casuals might like it more because they don't know what's in the book. Unless they read it. It didn't get over with the casual movie fan is probably the biggest argument. It got some. It didn't get enough. Why? Certainly wasn't a promotional thing. Maybe it was too, despite the fact that it had to be, maybe it was too dark. I mean, not dark, but miserable a movie. Maybe people looked ahead and saw what was coming and just didn't care to sit through that. Maybe part one of this Mockingjay was so tedious and boring that it turned a lot of the casuals off the part two. That's the only thing I can think of. Otherwise, I got nothing. Spectre and Peanuts movie both held up reasonably well. 55% drop off and 45% drop off respectively. Spectre 15 million, Peanuts movie 13.2. The night before 9.8 million. Now it's only got a $25 million budget. Look, whatever it got, versus Hunger Games. It's up to 11 million now. A lot of people love the movie. It's getting good reviews from critics and fans. They think it's going to have legs over the holidays. As long as it can justify itself staying in theaters long enough, I think it'll more than make its budget back and be okay. Good. Thankfully for this movie, it had a low budget. But it could have done so much better if and we've talked about this the last couple of weeks. I'm not going to belabor the point. If it picked a different weekend. The Secret in Their Eyes only opened in a small amount of theaters, 2,392 to be exact. But it did pretty well, 6.7 million. That's not bad. Not bad at all. So I think the cast probably helped it up to 7.7. Now, not bad considering the competition. So that movie did very well. And Love the Coopers dropped off like we thought, 50%, so under 5 million. So really the story was, we all thought the night before I had a chance to not do particularly well. It did okay, but, I think the studio probably was hoping for at least 12, 13. But, maybe it'll make up the difference over the next few weeks as it gets closer to Christmas. It is a Christmas, more or less a Christmas comedy. So, but the story was Hunger Games, and I was shocked. I thought at least it'd get to 120 no matter what, but it is what it is. 102 million is what it did for its opening weekend, and it's not like it's going to be in trouble making its budget back. It's just a matter of high expectations not being met. That simple. That simple. Before, now, of course, you look ahead to this weekend, and obviously when you talk about Thanksgiving, it's never the Friday you look at, it's the Wednesday, because all the movies are always released on Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving. So you get so you'll have two sets of numbers. You'll have your traditional 3-day Friday to Sunday, and then a 5-day Wednesday through Sunday. So you'll be seeing both ways that and it should be a good weekend. You'd like to think that this will get the box office out of its supposed funk. And I don't even think it's in that much of a rut or a funk. But I can see why people would think that way, as I mentioned. But, yeah, I mean, you're looking at 3 really solid movies that I think should do okay, at least okay. And then you got the, Hunger Games, which will probably hold up reasonably well. Maybe it won't do as well as you'd hope or expected. But and you got Spectre and Peanuts movies still around, and so and the night before should be it mix. So the box office figures to see a lot of business. When you look at the Thanksgiving 5-day period, Wednesday is traditionally a big night to go out. Some people go out and party. Some people go to the movies. So you'll probably see some good results for Wednesday. Thursday, you won't see a whole lot. People Thursday night will go shopping. Friday is more about shopping, although if you're an animated movie like A Good Dinosaur or Peanuts, you might see a lot of traction on Friday because adults will take their kids to the movies at some point in the day, sometimes on the Friday. The weekend will be Saturday and Sunday should see some big numbers, even though there'll be a lot of holiday events going on. So it figures to be a big 5-day period at the box office. And I don't think it's going to disappoint. Although some movies like The Hunger Games might drop off more than expected. Some movies might disappoint due to high expectations. But we'll see. That's been a trend. So we'll see if that happens. But this week, you got 3 new movies, all of which being released tomorrow in wide release. Creed, opening in over 3,000 theaters, 3,350 or more to be exact. Michael B. Jordan stars in that. So it's a spinoff of the Rocky movies. Sylvester Stallone in that as well. A very big awards buzz kind of movie, but should do very well at the box office as well. Pixar has its second release this year, The Good Dinosaur, which is already getting stellar reviews, opening in almost 4,000 theaters. That figures to be the biggest release of the weekend, and probably will be number 1, I'd imagine, over the Thanksgiving weekend and over the 5 days. And then Victor Frankenstein, a film from Fox, opening on with 3,000 years, starring Daniel Radcliffe and James McAvoy, which looks like a very good film, has a very good cast. A lot of people feeling it might get lost in the shuffle and might only make $15 million or less for the 5 days, and maybe less than $10 million for the 3. My thinking is that it might surprise people and overperform. Although I will say this much: the fact that so many movies that came out around Halloween had Halloween themes and did well might end up hurting this movie. People might be a little Halloweened out, and this does lend itself more towards a Halloween-esque movie. So you wonder if that will play a role here or not. But nonetheless, even if it makes around 10, 11, 12 million, I'm sure that the studio's expectations are tempered because of when it's being released in the competition. A couple of smaller releases you might be interested in. 2 good documentaries. Janice, Little Girl Blue, will be opening on Friday. It's a documentary about Janis Joplin, starring her. You might want to check that out. Killing Them Safely, another documentary opening on Friday from Sundance Selects. Check your theater listings for that. Janis Joplin will only be in New York this weekend, so keep that in mind. And then The Danish Girl, a drama from Focus Features, opening in only 4 theaters on Friday. Those are the only film releases being released on Friday over this period. That The Danish Girl, directed an R-rated film directed by Tom Hooper, starring Eddie Redmayne and Amber Heard. So if you're interested in that film, check your local theater listing. So those 3 films, all with some awards, hope, optimism, all being released on Friday. The big releases being released on Wednesday. So, Mike, do you have anything to add to the box office discussion about last weekend or this coming weekend?
Honestly, I haven't even looked. I know I keep hearing that none of them did as well as they had anticipated. Like Hunger Games only made 106?
102.
102. Oh, that's even worse. Oh my god. What was the other one?
Night Before.
Night Before didn't do good at all. That's less surprising, to be quite honest with you. But look, honestly, I am of the opinion that now I'm losing my voice. Excuse me. I am of the opinion that I think people at this point are in fact waiting for Star Wars. I do. I think they're waiting for it. A lot of people were waiting for Mockingjay Spectre. Less than you'd anticipate in America, but it was already profitable by the time it got here anyway. It's like every James Bond movie ever, you know?
Yeah.
So you can't be upset by that. The Peanuts movie actually, I think, was only down a little bit. All right, it had a 45% change, but that could have been worse. So here's the thing. There were a couple movies that kind of killed, Mockingjay's thing. There was a logjam. End of October, beginning of November. There was a logjam there. You had Spectre, you had Peanuts, you had Mockingjay. And now it's just moving towards Star Wars. People are excited for that movie. People would rather see that movie. But sorry, I'm actually sending an email.
Okay.
But service. All right. No. Sorry about that. I know it's unprofessional, but I'm trying to concentrate on everything. But look, people were excited for this. But I think there is such dissatisfaction with the Hunger Games at this point. It's not really. Look, everybody was hyped. Everybody's excited. Everybody's super excited. But at this point, I think people are all Hunger Games out. I think there's an issue. Casual fans, movie fans who have only seen the movies were probably surprised by all the twists and turns. And the people who read the books previously were disappointed a little bit. But you're going to have that with pretty much every book to movie adaptation. You know, there are some things that are going to be lost in the translation. There are some things that are going to be changed. For some things like Lord of the Rings, you're going to accept that because it makes sense. You condense it to a much stronger movie, despite the fact that some things you felt like should have stayed in there, like Tom Bombadil. And then you've got things like Twilight, which you just kind of wished weren't made to movies at all. And then you have things like Harry Potter, where things were changed so drastically, especially in the last couple movies. And unless that it just didn't feel like the same product, same story that you were just excited for and wanted to see. But they changed so many things in that last Harry Potter movie. It's like, why would you even do that?
Right.
I don't know where Hunger Games comes in. I've only seen the first one. I wasn't a fan of the first one. I wasn't really a fan of the story either. It's just like, but I could see how people could get worn down pretty easily with this franchise because there's like no hope, you know. But there's like finally in this one there's a little bit of hope, but I don't even know. November 25th, you've got Creed, which is getting so much critical buzz. It's crazy. You got The Good Dinosaur, which people are comparing to like they're calling it like a Cars type of quality. And for Pixar, that's not the best. But then again, I went back and watched the original Cars years after I first saw it and realized, oh, the first Cars is actually pretty good. Second Cars, I have not heard too many good things on. Victor Frankenstein, which I don't have high hopes for. But people are just waiting for Star Wars. It's about a month away now, less than a month. Let's be clear here. That's the movie people care about. And here's the other thing. I don't know if you mentioned this, but this is the Christmas season. Money's tight. Money's tight. So people do have to pick and choose what movies they see. They can't just go see, oh, well, one week I'm going to see Hunger Games, and the next week I'm going to see Creed, and the next weekend I'm going to see Good Dinosaur, Krampus. and the next weekend I'm going to see Star Wars. People can't do that. Especially not in this economy, especially not when you're charging 10, 11 to like $20 to see a movie. People are going to pick and choose. The box office is going to be down. That is the reality of the situation. And the people who and Hunger Games should be very happy that in 4 days it made $111 million. Especially since it's kind of seen at this point, it's kind of like a subpar product. That's how it is.
Right.
Especially since it's got so much competition from Bond, which has a similar audience. Especially it's got so much competition from Peanuts movie, who has a similar audience as well. I'm saying this because Mockingjade's got a very broad audience.
Right.
So they have to pick and choose what movies they see. If they go see Spectre the week before Peanuts, they're not going to go see Mockingjay.
Right.
So it's money.
Right.
Black Friday's coming up. How many people are going to rush out to see Creed or Good Dinosaur? Well, Good Dinosaur might get people. But we're not rushing out. Good Dinosaur might get people, but let's be clear here. I don't see, other than Good Dinosaur, none of those movies are going to get over $50 million. Creed or Victor Frankenstein. Not happening.
Right.
It's just the reality of the box office, and I don't understand why they're like, oh, it's a flop. No, you just have to change your perception of the box office. You have to lower your expectations. Because the only movie coming out that has a chance of being a runaway smash motherfucking hit is Star Wars. And by the way, with all the merchandising, it's already made its box office back, so who cares? Star Wars is the only movie that's going to get all that box office, sweet ass box office money. And everybody else needs to just adjust their expectations.
I think you made a really good point. And that point is, you mentioned Spectre, and here's the thing: everybody wants to get wrapped up in the whole idea that, well, Hunger Games didn't make it. Well, keep in mind, last year, the two movies that came out in early November were Big Hero 6 and Interstellar. Interstellar did good business. It didn't do great business. Interstellar was not a mainstream kind of thing. Some people went and saw it. Some people didn't. It was not appealing to a lot of people. Whereas James Bond has its diehard fans, but it does appeal to casuals. They think they like the looks of it. They're going to go see it. The other thing, too, is last year was a down box office year, all year. Yeah, there were weeks that did well. There were, if you look at it overall, it wasn't too bad. But there was more underperformances in the summer than we had. I think, what was it? We only had like one. I think Guardians of the Galaxy was like the only summer movie that went over 300 million. I think. I'm not sure. But this year, we had from January through August, it was can't miss. A lot of movies were overperforming. Some movies were exceeding expectations. You talk about what Jurassic World did, what Avengers did. And then you go into September. The end of September was very good. Most of October was very good. We have movies overperforming. At some point, it's going to come back down to earth. And then you bring in the fact that it's the holidays and people don't have the money, then that's what's going to happen. And most people got their calendar circled for Star Wars in a month. So if you put the whole picture together, you shouldn't be surprised to see a little bit of underperformance.
A lot of underperformance.
So it's really not that shocking. And a lot of these small like awards movies like Creed and that, they're gonna get seen after the holidays. That's what always happens. People are like, you know what? It's still going to be around in January. I'll go see it then when I have a little bit of extra money. Maybe you have a gift card or something you can use. A movie like The Night Before might do a little bit better the closer it gets to Christmas, providing it can hang around long enough.
Which is another issue, but...
Right. But it's only a $25 million budget, so... It's already at 11 now, so it's even if it hit on 1, at least break even. So,
It's got a shot.
yeah. So you know what? Look, you put the whole picture together, it makes sense. Like you laid it out beautifully. What are you going to get over this weekend? You're going to get The Good Dinosaurs #1 movie. It'll likely make, you probably figure around 50 million over the weekend, 75, 76 over the 5 days. Hunger Games are being around second, probably around 50. It'll make it close for Good Dinosaur, that's for sure. Probably around 60, 65 over the 5 days. You figure Creed will be around 3 with 20 million or so, and then 30 something million over the 5 days. And then you probably have the Peanuts movie and Spectre around. Victor Frankenstein, I don't expect to do over 10. I'd be over the 3 days, maybe 14, 15 over the 5. I'd be pleasantly surprised if it does better than that. I hope it does. Because I think it's going to be a really good movie. And then the night before, you'd probably figure around 5 or 6, around 9 million, 10 million for the 5 days. It should be a good weekend. Although how us viewing it as a good weekend might be different than most people who might think that there was underperformance. But we'll see how it all shakes out. It should be a good weekend at the box office. There's some good movies. You got some movies held over from the last few weeks. So I think it'll be a competitive weekend with some good totals. But whether it meets expectations or not, it's a whole other story. All right. So to wrap up tonight, got this here. To wrap up tonight, we're not going to do any entertainment news discussion because, like I said, there hasn't been anything that really needs to be addressed, and none of you really indicated anything, so we'll leave that. We'll wrap up with our usual weekly TV report card segment, our highlights from TV over the last week. And I'm going to be brief because there wasn't a whole lot that stuck out of my mind over the past week that I thought was, highlights. I thought there was a lot of good, but it wasn't anything like extraordinary. A lot of episodes were built up as we approached mid-season finales. Blacklist had their mid-season finale. I thought it was amazing. I thought they did some really good things. This first half of the season has been much better than so much of last season, so that's an improvement. I thought that was a good episode. I'm not going to spoil it. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Did we talk about that last week? No, we didn't because we didn't have a show. We didn't have a show. We had a show on Tuesday night while it was on. We didn't do an entertainment show on Wednesday or Thursday. So, yeah, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was phenomenal last week. Great plot movement, big twist, really just tied all the season stories together in a nice little bow to set up the final 2 episodes of the first half of the season. Really, really good. Arrow, really, really, really good. I'm being vague on purpose because I don't want to spoil anything for people. Because last time we did this, I got accused. Some people sent me emails saying you were spoiling too much. We are going to spoil things occasionally, folks. Okay. But Arrow is just really, really good. I like where it's going with a lot of the storylines. I really like Flash. The Zoom stuff has been fantastic. Yeah, and those are pretty much my highlights. A lot of comic book stuff this week. Outside of that, I really haven't enjoyed too much else. And I really haven't watched as much because I've been watching a little more college basketball over the last week. So, Mike, you got any TV highlights?
I have just been in catch-up mode. I haven't really been watching stuff.
Right.
So I haven't had the opportunity to really sit down. I've been busy. I've been abnormally busy over the last couple of weeks, so I really haven't had a chance to really sit down and kind of binge television watch. I am 2 episodes behind Doctor Who. So, and I've heard nothing but great things over the last 2 weeks regarding Doctor Who. Nothing but good. I think I'm caught up on Flash and Arrow, and I will say Arrow was better than Flash last week. Arrow was much better than Flash last week. However, I will say that bringing back, and I'm only saying this, having Henry show up, Henry Allen, Barry's father, show up, was an inspired move, especially
Mm-hmm.
after the Zoom stuff. It was an inspired move. But I think the character I'm waiting the most to show up is Jay Garrick.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for him to show up again. That is the one character I'm waiting for the most. Because it's time. It's time to bring him back. Arrow was outstanding. Neil McDonough has just been doing inspired work. He has really brought up the level, and I'm not saying this because, you know what, Matt Nable was excellent last year as Ra's al Ghul. Excellent. You know, there was I had no issues with Matt Nable. He played that role really well. Was he Liam Neeson? No, but how many people are Liam Neeson?
Right.
He played it his way, and it was outstanding. And I wished it, and this is spoilers for season 3, I wish they didn't kill him off. But they did. However, what's his face? Neil McDonough's been doing great work. John Barrowman, having him show up more regularly has just been fantastic because John Barrowman delivers and brings a lot to whatever he does.
Right.
And everything's just been kind of going good. They have kind of laid off the Olicity stuff, and I think that has done nothing but help the show.
Yeah, agreed.
The show, now that it's not bogged down in the Oliver Felicity relationship, is just flowing so much better. It is literally night and day. So, you know what? I'm hoping for good things now. And then next week, they're obviously next week. Yeah, next week. They're doing the Vandal Savage stuff. They're launching Legends Tomorrow, which trailer came out today, I think. Legends of Tomorrow, which I want to see. I haven't seen it yet. But they're doing the Hawkman and Hawkgirl reveal themselves, and Vandal Savage kind of becomes the big bad of, I don't know, he's going to be the big bad of Legends of Tomorrow. They're just introducing him here. So I'm excited for the 2-night event. I actually did end up seeing the Blacklist season finale because Blacklist is a show if it's on, I'll kind of watch it here and there.
Yeah.
It was a very intense episode. I didn't like the end result. I felt like they could have gotten more mileage out of their current circumstance. I felt like it could have been better served, and the fact that they didn't go that way, I was a little disappointed, even though, like everything involving the Blacklist, it was extremely well acted. And James Spader. He's just amazing. So, I mean, I wasn't super happy with the Blacklist, despite it being super well done. I'm literally like 5 episodes back on Gotham. I'm just debating whether or not it's worth anything to kind of try to catch up. I'm really debating. I don't care. So that is my TV report card. As you can tell, I stay in my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Because I just don't have the time to jump out of it and say, oh, I'm going to pick up I'm going to try Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to pick up a brand new show. I'm going to pick up Masters of Sex. Or that show after Walking Dead, Into the Wasteland. I don't have time to pick up new shows at the moment.
To your point on the blacklisting, I was in the same boat as you, and then I read you know how the Entertainment Weekly that does like these after show interviews.
Sure.
I read something, and apparently that they're not done with certain things yet.
Well, that's all well and good. It's still, my point still stands. I'm not happy.
Yeah, until it changes, until it reverts. I know, I understand what you're saying, but it calmed me down a little bit compared to when I first saw it. I was going to mention something I forgot. Oh, I forgot to mention South Park, which had a nice rebound episode last week after an abysmal episode the week before. A nice rebound episode that was centered on Jimmy and PC Principal, which was really, really, really funny. And hopefully they carry the momentum from that episode for the last 2 episodes of the season, because they need it after that. They had 2 episodes this year that I thought were just absolute like clunkers. And both featured Randy heavily, so that should tell you something. But anyway, and folks, I one of the reasons why, like I said, last week I got a couple people emailed me and said that they didn't like that we gave out too many spoilers. So that's why I'm being a little bit more vague. Also, because of time, I wanted to get through it rather quickly. If I start getting into stuff in more detail, we won't have time. So we'll see how people respond to us doing it a little bit more vague this week, and see how people like that. I guarantee I'm gonna get people saying you weren't detailed enough. And I'm like, well, okay. You asked me to be less detailed. Now you want me to be more detailed. What am I? How can you win? So we'll obviously we'll see how people react. But that's now. I will say this much: next week I don't know if we'll even do TV report card segment, because there isn't a lot on in TV over the next week because of Thanksgiving and such. But we'll see. It depends on, let me see what the lineup is and what's going on and stuff, and there'll be a couple. Actually, no, we'll probably do one next week. We'll have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to do of next week. So we'll probably have enough. By the way, Mike, I know that this is a completely random thing. Before I wind down, I wanted to bring this up too, because I literally just saw this somebody just sent me this. I guess one of our listeners, and I've seen this earlier, but I forgot to mention it. One of our listeners remembered that you were interested in the Little Prince.
Yes.
Apparently, I know this actually the release date's March 18th, 2016.
Oh, it got pushed back pretty heavily then.
And the trailer is I guess either there's a new trailer, it's the first trailer, it's up. I know Coming Soon has got it, but there's a couple other sites that have it too.
I've seen one full-length trailer already with Jeff Bridges narrating and everything. I've seen it already. I've seen that one. I
think this is a newer one though, because it just got posted today.
Then I will have to go on my way to watch it then.
But yeah, the release date is March 18, 2016. So there you go. So I thought a listener sent us that the date and a link to the trailer. So there you go. Somebody was looking out for you on that, Mike.
Well, I appreciate them.
Okay. All right. So we are going to wind down now. As always, the show might be over. That does not mean you have to stop interacting, contributing to the show. I didn't mention this on the football show earlier today. I forgot all about my ending spiel. No wonder I got off so quick. But yeah, you can continue to email us feedback, questions about the show scheduling, topic ideas, breaking news items, reactions or comments to things we did on the show, topics, things we said on the show. Any of these things you can send to us via email, Facebook, and Twitter. You can email us at itspotlight411@gmail.com. You can also follow us and tweet us at ITSpotlight411. And please remember to use the hashtags, either hashtag ITSpotlight411 or hashtag ITS5, which represents our first anniversary on the air. Probably first. Our 5th anniversary on the air as a podcast. It ain't the first. Sorry about that. You can also find us on Facebook. To search for In the Spotlight 411 on Facebook, and make sure you like our fan page upon finding it. We encourage you to follow us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest information about our show. If you need to catch up on our show, maybe you want to watch an episode again, you can check us out here on Google Hangouts and on YouTube. To search for In the Spotlight 411, and you'll find us either in your search or just you'll find our channels where you can find all 17 episodes that we've had here on Google Hangouts and on YouTube so far over the last month. That is the only way to catch up on our show or rewatch shows. We do not have an audio format right now. We are still working on that. So you can't catch up in any other way. Again, I was hoping it would be fixed by this week. This is not in my hands. This is out of my hands. I'm at the mercy of these technicians, just like you are. So hopefully by next week we'll have iTunes and our new host site ready to go so that you guys can listen to us on the an audio format for those that prefer that instead of watching us. And that'll be also another way you can catch up on our shows as well. So hopefully that happens. But if you're a longtime fan that wants to check out some of our old episodes from before our days here on Google Hangouts and YouTube, or maybe you're a new fan that wants to learn a little bit more about us and what we do and such, you can check out our older episodes on for the last 5 years on TalkShoe.com, Libsyn.com, and of course on iTunes. And if you want to listen to the first 31 episodes we ever did, our original 31 episodes, you can check those out on blogtalkradio.com. So whether it's blogtalkradio.com, iTunes, Libsyn, or TalkShoe, you want to make sure you search what's under our old title on all those sites. In the Spotlight with Brian Gardner. Again, it's In the Spotlight with Brian Gardner. And then once you find our old shows on all those sites, you'll have access to those older episodes, which are all just audio format, MP3 format. You'll have access to those episodes. You can check them out anytime you wish. And they're all available to you there. And eventually they'll all be stored on our new host site all together, so you don't have to search for them high and low. So if you're interested in checking those older episodes out, feel free to, for whatever reason, feel free to do that. And again, if you're want to catch up on some of our more recent episodes or rewatch some of our more recent episodes, you can do that here on Google Hangouts and on YouTube. Just search for In the Spotlight 411. All right. So I want to thank Mike for being here tonight. Thank you, Mike. Wow, no goodbye greeting. Wow. Wow. Oh, goodbye, farewell.
You have to give me a minute. The Google Plus thing is pretty slow.
Oh.
So,
okay.
All right. For you, Brian, I hope that you suck a dick. For everybody else, I wish you a happy and safe and fulfilling Thanksgiving.
Oh.
And I really hope everybody has a great holiday. I hope everybody is thankful for, everything positive and going good in their lives and all the blessings they have. That's honestly, that's an honest statement. I hope everybody has a fantastic Thanksgiving. And I hope nobody gets run over on Black Friday because they were in the way of some random 50 shoppers who are going for the 99-cent curtains at Walmart. So I wish everybody is safe Black Friday. I hope nobody gets stupid. It's going to happen, but I hope.
Yeah.
And as always, it's time for bad. Let's wrap it up.
Okay. Very heartwarming, Mike. Very well said. Thank my great show, pat myself on the back, and thank all of you for your continued support and contribution to the show. Thank you so much for watching. To those that checked out both shows today, thank you. Checked out our Football Blitz show for this week. That was broadcast and streamed live today around 2:45 p.m. Eastern Time, so you can check that out here on Google Hangouts and YouTube. If you already haven't done so, that was our football show for this week. This is our last show for the week. We are done after today. We are not back on the air till next Tuesday. Next Tuesday will be the first of 3 shows. Next week, we're back on our normal schedule. Both next Tuesday, which is December 1st, and next Thursday, which is December the 3rd, will be our usual primetime shows at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, broadcasting and streaming live here on Google Hangouts and on YouTube. On Tuesday, we'll do our usual sports show. We'll cover college basketball, NBA, MLB. We'll do real wrestling as well. And then, of course, on Thursday, our entertainment show, box office discussion, TV, movies, the whole deal. And then, of course, we'll also have our In the Spotlight Football Blitz, which should be, I think, next Friday, December the 4th, but it could also be on Thursday, too. I'll let you know more about that next week. So next week, back to regular schedule, 3 shows, Tuesday, Thursday, and either Friday, or maybe we'll double up on Thursday and do an afternoon show with the football show. So we'll get into that more next week. So that's what's coming at you next week. Until then, I hope you all have a great rest of your night. A great holiday weekend, great Thanksgiving. Be safe. If you're traveling, be safe. Anywhere you go, be safe. Enjoy the time with your family, your friends, your loved ones. Be safe shopping if that's what you do, or any gatherings or holiday events you go to this next week. Enjoy, have fun, be safe, and just be thankful for all you have and all that. And I know I'm not being as eloquent as my co-host, but I'm trying to rush. So
because you suck.
I do suck. I do. But anyway, be
Can
thankful.
You say it again for recording purposes.
Yeah. So be thankful for what you have, and be grateful and enjoy it and appreciate it, and be safe and have a good holiday and a good Thanksgiving. We'll see you back here for our next show a week from tonight, December the 1st, our first show of December. So this closes out November for us. Our first show of December coming at you a week from tonight, December 1st, broadcasting live here on Google Hangouts and on YouTube at 8 o'clock from Eastern Time. Until then, have a good night, everybody.